That's why they talk about our tax dollars like they belong to them, but they don't, you know. There's not a thing accomplished in this country, especially not a thing accomplished by the government, that hasn't been accomplished by the ingenuity and the sweat and the courage and the discipline and the work and the sacrifice of our people. And I deeply resent it, and I am deeply dismayed by a leadership that will dismiss the spirit of voluntarism in the serious business of our security as vigilantism. Now, I think it's about time we took that word apart. Vigilante, okay? I think the root of the word is vigilant, and that it comes from a word that means to stay awake. Right? So when people tell you that they don't want you to be vigilantes, what do they mean? And they want you to go to sleep? Well, maybe it's because we've been asleep at the wheel that we have millions and millions and millions of illegal immigrants wandering around the country with nothing being done. The simple fact of the matter is that we are a people determined to remain awake. And our leaders should represent that vigilance, not arrogantly dismiss it. They should encourage that wakefulness, not contemptuously brush it aside. They should welcome that spirit and work with it. And I think it's about time they do. So here are the ingredients of a successful policy. Well, the properly trained and structured force put along that border. And yes, since it's going to be a force that's trained in the military techniques necessary to defend the border, I suppose the president would call that militarization. I was shocked when I heard him use the word militarization as if it was a curse word in his speech, because I thought Republicans kind of liked the military. And being as how he's taken advantage of the courage and skill of our military over there in Iraq, he might show a little respect for militarizing things. Well, if we weren't militarizing the war against terror, we'd be in serious trouble. And being as how that border is a front in the war against terror, the possibility that we might have to take some military steps to secure that border ought to be welcomed, not dismissed as if it's some kind of terrible stigma that we might have to do something militarily along our border. Let's face facts. So yes, maybe we will have to do that. Not with a view, by the way, of setting up some hostility or anything else. One of the things I think ought poignantly to have come through in the film that we watched earlier is that in a certain sense, in a terrible way, this is already an invasion that is costing many lives and affecting the fate of many people on both sides of the border. In some ways, we are, because of the incompetence of our leaders, like a person who has allowed an attractive nuisance to develop in a neighborhood that then attracts kids and other folks to come in and get themselves hurt or killed. And we all know that that's something that must be stopped. Our failure to secure our border has become an issue of life and death for people who are dying because of the false allure that is created by that neglect, and of a nation whose identity is threatened because we are allowing our commitment to who we are and what we should be for the world to be diluted by our neglect of this vital prerequisite of our life in common. I would say quite simply that we need, as a people, to raise this up right now to the level of focal attention that's needed, to send a message that cannot be missed by our political leaders, so they will take the action that is necessary to get this job done. Do I believe this is the only problem that faces our country right now? Obviously not. I even think that there are problems that over the long term, if we can deal with this one, will still pose deep and profound challenges to the survival of our liberty. I believe strongly in defending the great principles of our Declaration of Independence. We're all created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. We must defend the name of the Creator and our right to invoke that authority in our public affairs. We must defend our faith, and we must defend the consequences of the discipline that comes from respect for the Creator's will, starting with the truth that we have no right to assault innocent life in the womb or anywhere else in a contravention of basic human rights. I think all those principles must be defended with stout courage until our respect for them has been fully restored. But I think we have to remember that you cannot save in principle what you have lost in fact. And if we let the borders collapse, if we let them get away with their scheme of internationalizing our situation, then, my friends, we will have lost this nation in fact. And we can lament all we like the loss of our Constitution and our principles, but they will nonetheless be gone. If we want to continue this battle to restore the integrity of America's heart, spirit, and soul, then we must engage and win the battle now to defend the integrity of America's borders. For those borders represent something to us. Something that I'm afraid our leaders aren't taking seriously anymore. And that is the truth that even though this nation offers hope to people all over the world, that hope right now extends to the responsibility we as representatives of all those peoples have to build and maintain the success of constitutional self-government. We cannot have contempt for this. Too many people have given life and blood. It is no longer just a piece of paper, for it is a piece of paper whose terms and meaning, whose hope and reality has been consecrated by their sacrifice. Every word now written in their blood. Together as a community, we must dedicate ourselves to preserving the hope, the dream for all humanity, for which previous generations have struggled and have fought, and some have died. If we can do this now, then we will keep alive this last best hope, as Lincoln called it. And don't you think that's still our mission? They want us to be all preoccupied with money and with jobs and with all these things that they claim are so much more important. But somewhere in the midst of what we do in our work, as we work for the money and the family and the jobs and the enterprises, there is a place in our heart. It is a place that is reserved for America. A place where we know that we are still a people dedicated in the midst of all of that to the things that together we can achieve for the best hope of humanity. This is, in the end, our common cause, our common purpose, our common pride, and our willingness to defend the border that defines the universe of this responsibility must be the first and urgent sign that we mean to fulfill it well. God bless you.